Have you ever stood at the edge of something important, knowing that the next step could change everything? Moments when the outcome is uncertain, the pressure is heavy, and all you can do is hope that God will show up. Today's prayer is for the one who is facing a battle, not always with weapons, but with fear, decisions, challenges, and unseen struggles. Stay until the end, because this psalm reminds us where true strength comes from before the fight even begins. Welcome to Daily Prayer, your moment to breathe, reflect, and reconnect with God. Take a slow breath, let the weight you've been carrying settle for a moment. This is a space where you don't need to be brave or confident, a space where your heart can prepare itself in God's presence before stepping into whatever lies ahead. If this moment brings peace to your spirit, allow yourself to like and turn on notifications, so this refuge of prayer is always here when you need strength and reassurance. Psalm 20 is a prayer, spoken before action, before answers, before victory is visible. It is the voice of a people lifting someone else up to God, asking not for confidence in human power, but for divine protection and support. It begins in the day of trouble, not after it has passed. It acknowledges that hardship is real, that danger exists, that fear is not imagined, and yet, instead of panicking, the prayer turns upward. There is something deeply powerful about that. When trouble comes, we are tempted to rely on what we can control. Our plans, our resources, our strategies. But this psalm reminds us that the most important preparation happens in prayer. It speaks of God hearing us when we cry out, of protection that comes not from our strength, but from God's name, of help that does not rise from human effort, but from God's presence. Maybe today you are standing before a challenge that feels bigger than you, a decision that weighs on your heart, a season that feels uncertain. You don't know the outcome yet, but you know the pressure is real. This prayer meets you there. It reminds you that before you step forward, God can sustain you. Before the battle unfolds, God can strengthen you. Before the outcome is decided, God can hear the desires of your heart. Psalm 20 teaches us that faith does not wait for victory to rejoice. Faith prepares in advance. It lifts its hope before the fight begins. It trusts that God sees what is coming and is already at work. As this prayer unfolds, we will move deeper into what it means to rely on God rather than invisible power. We will explore the difference between trusting in what looks strong and trusting in the one who truly is strong. Stay with me. What comes next reveals where confidence is truly built, and why those who trust in God remain standing when others fall. As this prayer continues, the focus shifts from the weight of the battle to the source of true support. David understands something essential. Before any action is taken, before any strategy is formed, the heart must be strengthened. This prayer is not rushed. It is intentional. It asks God not only to observe the situation, but to actively sustain the one who is about to face it. There's a quiet humility here. Instead of asking for instant victory, the prayer asks for help, for support that comes from a place higher than human effort, for strength that does not depend on confidence or experience, but on God's presence. This is important, because many battles are not lost on the field. They are lost in the heart before they ever begin. When fear overwhelms the spirit, strength fades quickly. When the heart feels unsupported, even the strongest resolve weakens. That is why this prayer asks God to remember every sincere offering, every quiet sacrifice, every act of faith that no one else may have noticed. David reminds us that God sees preparation done in secret. He sees obedience that happens long before the battle. He sees prayers whispered in private, choices made with integrity, and hearts that remain faithful, even when outcomes are uncertain. Maybe today you are facing something that requires courage, and maybe you feel unprepared, or unsure, or afraid of failing. This prayer does not shame that fear. It surrounds it with hope. It asks God to fulfill the deepest desires of the heart, not selfish wishes, but intentions aligned with His will. It trusts that God understands what we need even better than we do ourselves. There is also a sense of community here. This is not a prayer spoken alone. It is a prayer spoken over someone, a reminder that no one is meant to face battles in isolation. Faith grows stronger when it is shared. Hope become steadier when others lift you up in prayer. David envisions a moment beyond the battle, a moment of rejoicing, not because of personal glory, but because God's faithfulness is revealed. Banners lifted not in pride, but in gratitude. Celebration that honors God, not human strength. This reveals a powerful truth. Faith looks forward with confidence even before the outcome is known, not because it assumes victory is guaranteed, but because it trusts God's character. It trusts that whatever happens, God remains faithful, that his purposes stand, that his protection does not fail. And then comes a shift in certainty. David speaks with assurance, not speculation. He expresses confidence that God hears, that God responds, that God saves with power. This confidence is not arrogance, it is relationship. It comes from knowing God, not just knowing about him. This part of the prayer invites us to examine where our confidence truly lies. Is it in what we can see? In what we control? In what appears strong on the surface? Or is it rooted in the name of the Lord? Steady, unshaken, eternal. As the prayer moves forward, this contrast will become even clearer. The difference between visible power and divine strength, between those who rely on human resources and those who rely on God. Stay with me. What comes next reveals why some fall when pressure rises, and why those who trust in God remain standing. Now the prayer reaches a moment of clear distinction. David draws a line between two ways of facing the battle, two sources of confidence, two foundations that could not be more different. Some place their trust in what is visible, in strength they can measure, in resources they can control, in power that looks impressive from the outside. They believe that preparation alone will carry them through. That strategy will protect them. That visible force will secure the outcome. But David speaks with quiet certainty. That kind of confidence does not last, because when pressure rises, what looks strong can still collapse. What seems reliable can still fail. What feels secure can still shake. And this truth is not ancient, it is deeply current. We live in a world that constantly encourages us to trust what we can see. Our abilities, our plans, our connections, our resources. Yet when the moment of trial arrives, these things often prove fragile. David understands that real strength comes from a different place. He declares that true confidence is found in the name of the Lord. Not as a phrase, not as a symbol, but as a living reality. Trusting God means placing your weight on something that does not move when everything else does. This kind of trust does not deny preparation. It simply knows its limits, because even the best plans cannot guarantee peace. Even the strongest efforts cannot control outcomes. Even the most confident hearts can falter when fear rises. David observes what happens when these two foundations are tested. Those who rely solely on visible strength begin to waver. Pressure exposes the cracks. Fear finds its way in. Confidence gives way to collapse. But those who place their trust in God experience something different. They remain standing, not because the battle is easier, not because the danger disappears, but because their foundation does not shift. This is not bravado. It is stability. And maybe this speaks directly to you. Perhaps you've done everything you can, prepared as best as possible, planned carefully, worked diligently, and still, the outcome feels uncertain. This prayer does not ask you to abandon responsibility. It invites you to release control, to recognize that while you prepare, God sustains. While you act, God protects. While you face the battle, God remains unshaken. There is a quiet strength in this realization. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to overpower anyone. You don't need to pretend you are fearless. You only need to trust where your strength truly comes from. David sees the outcome before it happens. Not in detail, but in essence. He knows that those who trust in God may bend, but they will not break. They may face pressure, but they will not fall. This confidence does not come from optimism. It comes from relationship. A relationship built on prayer, surrender, and dependence. As the prayer moves toward its final words, the focus shifts one last time away from human effort and fully toward God's response. Not just support, but victory. not just endurance, but deliverance. Stay with me. The final part brings this prayer to rest, placing everything into God's hands and trusting Him with the outcome. Now the prayer reaches its final breath, calm, grounded, and full of trust. There is no urgency left here. No striving. No need to prove strength. Everything has been placed where it belongs, in God's hands. David does not end this prayer by describing the battle. He ends it by surrendering the outcome. He understands that once prayer has been offered, once trust has been declared, once the heart has been aligned, the rest belongs to God. This is where true peace begins. Not when the fight is over, but when the soul stops carrying the weight of the result. David's confidence now rests completely in God's response. He believes that God hears, that God saves, that God acts with power, not always in the way we expect, but always in faithfulness. There is a deep reassurance here for anyone standing before an uncertain future. You do not have to know how everything will unfold. You do not have to control every outcome. You do not have to carry the burden alone. This prayer reminds us that when we call on God, we are not calling into emptiness. We are calling into relationship, into a presence that listens, into a strength that responds. David places victory where it belongs, not as a personal achievement, but as a gift from God. He understands that success without God is fragile, but trust in God is unshakable, and this truth speaks gently to the heart. When fear whispers that you are not enough, God reminds you that He is. When pressure tries to overwhelm you, God offers stability. When uncertainty clouds your vision, God remains clear and faithful. The prayer ends not with noise, but with assurance, an assurance that those who trust in God will remain standing, that those who rely on Him will not be put to shame, that calling on the Lord is never wasted, never ignored, never forgotten. Take a moment now. Breathe slowly. Release what you cannot control. Place what lies ahead into God's care. Whatever battle you are facing, visible or hidden, you do not face it alone. God goes before you. God sustains you. God hears you when you call. Let this prayer be your preparation. Let trust be your foundation. Let peace guard your heart. If this prayer strengthened your spirit, share it with someone who may be standing before their own moment of uncertainty. And remember, daily prayer is always here for you, a place to return when you need reassurance, faith, and quiet strength before the next step. May your heart remain steady. May your trust remain firm. And may the Lord hear you in the day of trouble.